Guys, my outfit today is so great. This skirt is just the best. It always makes me feel wonderful when I wear it. Also, gold eyeliner. Don't know if you can tell. Gold eyeliner. Love it. In celebration of the books that I'm going to be talking about today, which are the Captive Prince books by C.S. Pacat. Snake warning for the next couple of seconds. Let's look at this lively noodle. I'm going to be distracted by him the whole time I'm filming, I can just tell. It's mating season. For all good little corn snakes. He's gonna spend the next 2 to 3 months trying to get out of his tank and find a lady snake to wrap himself around. If there was the equivalent of getting, you know, your snake snipped, then I would so do it for him because he looks like, you know, he's having a really bad time. Anyway, getting on to the real issue, the Captive Prince books. So I saw a couple of my friends read these, live tweet reading it on Twitter, and I went and read the blurb, which is as follows. Daemon is a warrior hero to his people and the truthful heir to the throne of Achelos, but when his half-brother seizes power, Daemon is captured, stripped of his identity, and sent to serve the prince of an enemy nation as a pleasure slave. Beautiful, manipulative, and deadly, his new master, Prince Laurent, epitomizes the worst of the court at Vere, but in the lethal political web of the Varetian court, nothing is as it seems, and when Daemon finds himself caught up in a play for the throne, he must work together with Laurent to survive and save his country. For Daemon, there is just one rule: never, ever reveal his true identity. Because the one man Daemon needs is the one man who has more reason to hate him than anyone else. So I read this blurb and was like, pleasure slave? Pleasure slave? Really? Like, I'll be the first to admit that I do eat this shit up when it's in fan fiction, but for some reason, seeing it in original fiction, I don't know, it's kind of like distasteful, almost vulgar. I don't know, it's really odd. It's that really awkward balance of between what you really enjoy reading about and what turns you on, and what repulses you in real life. It's so difficult to walk that line, and it's also really difficult to be open about it if it's stuff that you enjoy. You know, even to yourself. Fiction doesn't exist in a vacuum, but also you can't help what you enjoy and what turns you on. I did put off reading this for quite a long time because I was really hesitant about the material. I mean, slavery narratives, kind of dodgy. Sex slavery narratives, super dodgy. But then it started creeping onto my Tumblr dash. Then, you know, I went to London a couple of weekends ago and I was looking around Amazon for a series. It was a toss-up between this series and the Raven Cycle, which I will eventually get round to because it looks like good fun. But it came down to this one because I read the first chapter on Amazon and then really, bitterly admitted to myself that I was really enjoying it. So I bought all 3, which, ouch, dent in my wallet. Oof! So I bought all 3 and I read all 3. I read all 3 in a day. I mean, I was on a train for a significant portion of that, but mostly it was because I really enjoyed them. Bad stuff first, which is basically comes down to, you know, the content that you've already guessed is present, which, you know, is included in warnings for the book, basically, which is that this book includes slavery, sex slavery, rape, threat of violence, a lot of violence, and paedophilia. Ugh, yeah, I know. It's a lot to take in. Most of the first book is very unpleasant in this regard, but a lot of it is to do with the Varetian culture and also the Achelan culture. I mean, Achelos is fake Greece, basically, fictional Greece, and they are a slave nation. You know, they have slaves. Vere is not a slave culture, but they do have pets, like the high-ranking officials, members of the court. They have, I don't know how you would describe them, contracted prostitutes, of a sense. You buy a pet's contract and you keep them for the length of that contract as a sex servant, basically. I think I've described that okay. What I want to make clear is that Laurent does not ever rape Daemon. There is, slight spoiler, a dodgy point where he orders another slave to blow Daemon, but I don't know, it's sort of sexual assault by proxy for sure, but it's super awkward. Laurent hates all Achelan, so that doesn't excuse his behaviour. It kind of excuses his behaviour in a sense. You'd understand if you read them. I feel like it's not that big of a spoiler to tell you because you are told very early on, in the first chapter or 2 of the first book, that Daemon is, as Prince Damaenos of Achelos, killed his brother in battle, killed Laurent's older brother Auguste in the battle between their countries a couple of years before the book started. So Laurent, as a result, despises all Achelans, but especially Prince Damaenos, which is why it's essential for Daemon to keep his identity a secret, because, you know, he figures if Laurent finds out, he's not gonna live to see the sunset, you know? On to the good stuff. Like I said, I consumed these really quickly in a day. Someone on Twitter said that their least favourite book was the first book, and I agree with them now, because it's like the Hunger Games, where, you know, you read the first book and it's like, oh, this is great, and then you read the other two and you're like, okay, so the first book was basically context so that we could move on to bigger and better things. The best thing about the books is the fantastic main characters. Damon and Laurent are perfect for each other in every sense, you know, from enemies to lovers, everything in between. They're each other's perfect foils, they're each other's perfect, like, soulmates. It's great. It's really, really good. Trust me on this. It's wonderful. And seeing Laurent through Damon's eyes is really, really cool, because Damon is more like me. Like, he wishes that everyone could just be as blunt and honest and straightforward as himself, and like, why can't everyone just be honest about their intentions here? It would make life so much easier. And, you know, everyone around him just kind of laughs and goes about their business. Because the Parisian court is tricky as fuck, and Laurent, as a result, is a slippery, cunning bastard. He's like a Ravenclaw who's been forced by circumstance to become a Slytherin. He's naturally very intelligent, and the court and his situation have forced him to turn that to cunning and manipulation and, you know, genius planning. Like, he has to be 3 steps ahead of his enemies at all times or he's not going to survive. And you realise, like, by the end that Laurent was as much a captive prince as Damon in so many ways, and you end up loving him, even though for the first book he is a gigantic asshole. Second favourite thing about this is the different cultures. One of my favourite things about fantasy is reading these created cultures, and especially what place sex has in their culture. So Veer has a really, really great system where bastards are the ultimate taboo. So the solution to not having any bastards is to just stick with your own sex for all couplings. They marry, you know, different sex in order to have children and continue a family line, but it's seen as kind of weird to prefer a different sex than your own, which is just super cool. Never seen that in fantasy before. Honestly, I need to read more fantasy, but like, it was great to read, it really was. Achilles is less gay, but still totally okay with same-sex couples. Like, Damon is explicitly bisexual. He prefers women, but is also attracted to men on occasion. And that's just, that no one has any problem with that. No one ever, which is, you know, it's fantasy because it's not like reality, am I right? Ultimately, I would recommend them. I'm over the lingering shame of really, really enjoying them, because they're not hurting anyone and it's okay to like what you like. And these books are well written, they're exciting, they have really good characters, a fantastic plot. What's not to love? Although if you do want to buy them, be aware that the ebooks do not contain a short story that is included in the first book's paperback edition and an extra half chapter that is included in the second book's paperback edition. It's just not a part of the ebooks, which I was really pissed off to find out after I'd bought them. I'd really like to get my hands on that extra material, so if you can hook me up with like scans, PDFs, whatever, of the Training of Erasmus and the extra 0.5 of chapter 19 of the second book, I will love you forever. Tell me if this has made you want to read the books, by the way. Okay, getting spoilery, so if you don't want to be like majorly spoiled, you should probably stop. Here we go. I don't know if I would have been able to recommend these wholeheartedly if Damon hadn't vowed to stop slavery in Achilles. I'm so glad that he did, and I would love to, you know, see more of him changing his entire country, because shit, that is... I mean, America fought a war over that. It's difficult to implement change on such a huge scale, but, you know, if anyone can do it, he can, especially with Laurent at his side. The two of them working together, oh, such greatness. One of my main concerns before I started reading, and as I was reading, was how it was going to be reconciled that Laurent could sleep and love his brother's killer. Like, that is big stuff. That is really difficult. But, I mean, it worked out. And also, at the end, when he killed Castor, oh my gosh, that was just the best way to tie up a loose end. I didn't see it coming at all, because sometimes I'm just really too blinkered by the story to even look at this extra layer beneath it, but oh my gosh, it was just such a beautiful way to close the circle, and I'm really, really happy that it happened that way. Beautifully done. Quick survey. At what point did you figure out that the Regent had abused Laurent as a child? Because I think I realised around the second time that Laurent had a conversation with Nicaise, and, you know, there was obviously an extra layer to the conversation that Damon wasn't really picking up on, but the reader could, and that dread sort of just kept building and building and building, and, you know, oof. Ouch. So, you know, at what point did you figure it out? I need to reread them all from the beginning with that in mind, and also with, you know, the revelation in mind that Laurent knew from the start who Damon was, from the, like, the second he saw him. I've reread their, the scene where they see each other for the first time, And also I've reread like the Kingsmead and the trial scenes a bunch of times because, oh, I love a good trial scene. So much. Courtroom drama all the way. Favourite bits? Oh my gosh. "Not your uncle's griever," said a horrified voice. "Charles," said Charles. And when Laurent wears Aquilon clothes and Damon's brain just shorts out. And those are all perfect examples of humour that only works when it's written down. Because, like, "Whose voice?" said a horrified voice. Whose voice? You never find out, it's just a horrified voice. And, you know, the "Charles," said Charles doesn't work. Doesn't make it as funny unless you have, you know, the repetition of his name right there in the sentence. And the way that the scene with Laurent's skimpy clothes was shown, that was such great writing. Honestly, I aspire to write humour as funny as that. I was cracking up reading that, and every time I reread it, like, I die all over again, like, just thinking of it, like, when he sat down, it was shorter. I'll be over here screaming internally for the rest of my given life about Laurent Avere and his wrecked childhood. Oh my god. And the survival mechanisms he utilised not only to survive but to thrive in his uncle's court. I mean, he's brilliant. My favourite bits with him were the bits where he like completely outwitted people without even breaking a sweat, like where he beat Govart's ass and where he was the blue sky to Macedon's bellowing bull. Like he would just turn every attempted insult back on itself. Oh, I am so in awe of smart people, honestly. And I'll also be over here screaming forever about Damon and his true and pure heart. And how, like, it would be so easy to make Damon less than he is, just to make him, like, the warrior to Laurent's scholar, or, you know, the heart to Laurent's brain. It would be so easy to set it up like that, but he's so much more than that. Like, he's not only a fantastic warrior, obviously he is that, and I didn't really appreciate that until Chassi, where he like looks behind him and realises, oh shit, I came up the whole field and killed basically everyone in my path. Go me. But like, he's so much more than that. And he's smart. I think one of my favourite moments like that is where he sees Laurent after Chassi and he like grips his shoulder until Laurent tells him to stop, and he just, you know, he doesn't back down at any point until Laurent tells him to stop, because, you know, he's relentless and he's clever in his own way, and I really, really love him. And I empathise with him a lot because I too am an honest and straightforward person who doesn't understand why we need to have quicksilver minds and why people are, you know, mean to each other. Honestly, I just want everyone to get along. I'm going to list a bunch of fic recs in the description below because I've read some honestly great fic already. Like, the first thing I did after finishing the series was going straight to AO3. I mean, there's obviously a lot of porn in there, obviously, but, you know, there's also some really good plotty fic. My favourite one that I've read so far is just about Charles. Secondary character of my heart, honestly. Okay, tell me about your Captive Prince feelings, if you indeed have any. Wow, I'm exhausted. This took like twice as long as I expected because I got so caught up in my feelings, and now I really need to put a wash on. See you next video!